in the last year or so, you've been seeing the same ideas getting passed around for rule changes in American folk-style wrestling. And they're all kind of bad. They're all usually just rules ripped directly from freestyle, plastered onto folk-style to fix something somebody doesn't like about the sport, or maybe a problem we really do have that they're not thinking of an actual solution for. They're just kind of taking something from a sport they like and trying to shove it on folk-style to fix it or make it better in some way. And so eventually I will talk about, why, how, and when to make a rule change. But right now I'm going to talk about the 3 rule changes that I would make to make folk-style, better or more of what it is. And so the 3 changes that I would make, number 1 is that I would remove escape points, and reversals would still be 2. Escapes would not be worth anything. And this one's a little bit complicated, so I'll come back and explain it. It's the catalyst for the other changes. Number 2 is that I would add a riding time point to every period. There's a riding time point available at first, second, and third period. They're scored directly at the end of the period, and the clock starts over in the following period. The third change I would make is that I would remove neutral as a choice in the second and third period. It's top, bottom, or defer. And those are your choices. So number 1, let's go back to that. Let's go back to removing escape points and look at kind of what it does. Because at first glance, it looks like it's kind of unfair to the bottom guy, especially because in folk style, a lot of people consider it like a free point to go bottom and get your point at the start of a period. And I think that it doesn't change much if you remove it. In fact, I think it's almost like like a peace offering to the freestyle guys that want stand-ups added to American folk-style wrestling. They're like, ooh, stand them up after 30 seconds. Terrible idea. You don't want that ref involvement. You don't want them deciding when to stop moves. And 30 seconds is not long enough to turn somebody. And folk-style is not going to happen enough. It's just bad. And so if you want more neutral wrestling, give the guy on option, the guy on top, the option to cut for free. He can ride for a minute and get his point, or he can cut him and take him down again. And we'll get more neutral wrestling that way. The bottom guy, not much changes for him. He was on bottom anyways. He still needs to get out to score or get a reversal. He needs to do something to start winning, and that nothing changes by not giving him that point, except for the match opens up a little bit more. So we should get more neutral wrestling that way. Additionally, when you pair it with the second choice, or with the second change I would make, which is the ride time points every period, right? So we've taken away the escape point, which is a reason to ride somebody because you don't want them to tighten up the score, or because you don't want them to get an escape before X amount of time, or what have you. And so now it's a lot easier to cut people, so we're going to give the top guy options, right? Do you want to cut them, or do you want the ride point? Every period you have this option. So it's giving the wrestler that's winning the match, the wrestler that's getting the takedowns, the option. Am I going to ride and try to turn this guy and get points that way? Am I going to cut him and try to take him down? And that's more exciting for the fans, quote unquote, if that's what you want, is the neutral wrestling. And it keeps the top position interesting because you don't want everybody cutting and running. You do want people trying to turn and pin. That's the ultimate goal of the sport, and that's also why I removed neutral in the second and third period. These things all kind of play into each other. The reason that I'm making these changes, or that I would make these changes, is to preserve that part of American folkstyle wrestling. It's a 3-position sport. It's top, bottom, it's neutral. You need to be good in all 3. You need to know your moves, and it's not necessarily like freestyle where you're just skydiving on bottom, or top where you've got two real moves or moves that are used, and then a few other variations. There's more to it, I believe, in folk style. That's just my opinion. And it's also it's the only grappling sport that has you actively trying to hold down an opponent that's trying to stand up. And you don't want to give that up. It's something that's special and different, and you need to keep the sports as unique and special and different as you can to differentiate them. It's important, in my opinion. So that's that. Those are the 3 changes I would make. There's obviously some other changes that I would make as well. To like stalling and things, I would heavily define stalling in all kinds of different positions from the top. I mean, there's only 3 positions, provided you're not. I don't know. It gets interesting with stalemate versus stalling, I suppose. But there's neutral, top, and bottom. So define stalling in those 3 positions. How hard can that be? What's it look like to be stalling in neutral? What's it look like to be stalling on top? What's it look like to be stalling in bottom? It can't be that hard. And define the hell out of it. The other thing I would do is I'd rebrand American Folkstyle Wrestling. It'd be I know it's already USA Wrestling with the freestyle. That's their brand or whatever. But Folkstyle's a bad name. It's folk style is any regional style anywhere, so it's not the actual. Also, we don't even really have a name. Is it scholastic? Is it collegiate? Is it the NCAA tournament? Is it folk style? You know what I mean? And none of them really fit. So American style for the history books, guys. You know, Greco-Roman isn't from Greece; it's from France, and nobody knows that because the French people didn't speak up. So American style. It's American style. Yep. Next time. Bye.